Have some nice prospects. You have Ready to Roll. He's a horse we bought out of the 2-year-old in training sale. A lot of times we'll give him some time off after that. So obviously we got started a little later in the year. Got him ready at Churchill. We got a little bit behind, and so we put him in a maiden race short on the grass. Kind of was a bog that day, and he got pretty tired. Came back in a maiden race down here. Sloppy track, kind of got run over away from there. Shuffled back, and so we had also Mr. Big News for Chester, and they were going to have to run the same race here at the fairground, same maiden race. So we opted to take Ready to Roll to Hot Springs. We thought he might need some. Obviously, we don't want to run for the big purse, but also you need earnings to get in some of these races. So we took him up there. Ran a really, really good race around 2 turns, first time out around 2 turns, and it was a really good race. He bounced back very, very well. He's a horse that's developing daily. He's getting bigger, stronger by the day. Seems like he's getting better and better. He's only had 3 races. I guess that's a negative, but he's had a little bit of education in a couple of those races, and then he just kind of run off from him last time. Mr. Big News, he's a horse that's we think distance is going to help him. He's been slow developing, kind of like his pedigree would suggest. You can look at his numbers, and he's just ascended every time. He's moved up the ladder every single race. He's kind of gotten in traffic the last few races and kind of been behind and kind of hampered him a little bit. And I think that's one reason his last race was a little bit impressive. It was a smaller field, but he was still in traffic and having to wait. And it's kind of a slow pace, and I never thought he could get there. And last 8th of mile, he kind of flew home, and just got up and won. And we think the farther he goes, the better he's going to get. There again, he's another one that's getting better every day. Mailman Money, can't say enough good about him. He's a horse that's been immature mentally and physically. He's done everything we've asked and more. He's not a horse that I ever expected to be 2 for 2 at this point in time, just because he's been immature. He's coming on all the time. Hadn't done anything wrong. Big striding horse. I think that 12 hole is going to be his major obstacle in this race. Obviously, all of them, we just got to figure out if they're all good enough, and kind of like everybody else.
Having won the Louisiana Derby with a horse coming right out of the maiden race who'd never been in stakes, does that give you more confidence when you come into the race this year with, you also have Digital, who I believe just broke his maiden?
Right. I think it gives you a little confidence to try it, something that you may not have thought was ideal, but you look back and you figure out, you just mentioned how many horses came out of this, it become graded stakes horses. And probably a lot of them didn't look like graded stakes horses at this time last year. Same way with this group. It's a really good group. We don't know how good they're going to get. They're developing all the time, and that's what you hope in this time of year. The 3-year-olds are moving forward.
Mailman Money. He's a golden sense, which Chester seems to really like after By My Standards, and Mr. Money. Is there something, you mentioned that he was maybe, you didn't think he'd be 2 for 2, that there was a little immaturity. Did he kind of remind you of his older stablemates in that regard?
He really did. When we looked at him at the sale, the minute he walked out of his stall, I wrote By My Standards on top of my catalog page. He just reminded me so much of him. Mentally and physically, his mannerisms, the way he moved, walked, everything, and he's very similar in the fact that they were both immature early on and were just on the improve, and that's where we see him, and we hope we can repeat that feat.
And now you've got a 4th horse for Tom Durant, Digital, another maiden winner. Talk about that horse.
Very talented horse. Another one we got out of the 2-year-old sales, and turned out and gave him some time, and then. So it's kind of shuffled him farther back as far as development and being ready. He's a really nice horse. He's done everything we've asked. We were surprised he got beat by Mailman Money first time out. Just thought he was a more forward horse. And he broke from the outside post, and it was a sloppy track, and he got away tardy and just wasn't able to get up to Mailman Money. And Mailman Money ran a great race. Came back and won easily, and then was in a other than going long. Ran a really good race, and it was on Lecomte Day, and he actually ran faster than the Lecomte horses. He got better numbers than the Lecomte horses, so he was really good that day. He just came up a little short. It was his first time 2 turns. We've been a little behind with him the whole time, and he's another one that's really moving forward right now. he's a little bit lighter bodied horse, and trainer's paranoid. You always like a little bit more time, but he had 3 weeks between his last race, and now he's got 4 coming to this race. And I think it's made a big difference.
So he was second to Blackberry Wine in that allowance race, which is your stepson's horse.
Correct.
And you all are in the same division of the Risen Star. Since you've got 2 horses in each, talk about each division of the Risen Star. One seemed to attract most of the horses from the LeCompte.
Yeah, I think the reason it's attracted so many horses is wide open, and obviously you got a good purse, graded status, and points. So it's a wide open race. I think obviously the horse coming from California looks like the main one in there, but the rest of them, there's a lot of really good prospects in there.
This year was extended to 1 1/8 from 1 1/16, and the Louisiana Derby to 1 3/16 from 1 1/8. But just talk about, mid-February for 3-year-olds going 1 1/8.
I think it's just going to separate horses earlier in the year, and I guess, you get your heart broke earlier and don't have to worry about being on the trail for longer. But I think that's part of the excitement for everybody, being on the trail for an extended period of time, and then, get them separated, April, the last prep race. I think it puts a little bit too much pressure on some of these horses, the late developing 3-year-olds, and I think it could tend to make people push a little hard to get their horses ready for that 1 1/8. So I would have preferred it not to be a 1 1/8. It's going to help some of my horses. It's going to hurt some of mine probably. At the end of the day, we just prepared them the best we could without overdoing it. And if some of them come up a little bit short this time, we're not going to worry about it, and hopefully they show us the talent and they can move forward to the next spot.